Hello, everybody. We are live on YouTube. It is Monday, July 22nd. This is number 77. As I said, unless I have numbered them wrong somewhere along the way, which is totally possible. I just went into Apple and Spotify the other day and changed the icon for Solid Ground so that it was a distinct icon on every episode that we've done that's Solid Ground so that people can easily identify which ones are Solid Ground episodes. And I realized that I've uploaded 186 videos to this channel, at least as of the other day. It was like, that is a lot of videos. That feels like quite a bit. But thank you all for being here. Today we are joined. I'm Leslie Elliott Boyce, and I'm with Deborah Knox and Jenny Holland, who's frequently with us. Thank you, Jenny, for being here today. Jen Friend isn't here today. She'll be here next week. And we are joined by two guests from Women Are Real, which is a San Francisco Bay Area group and I will allow them to tell you a little bit more about their group. If you're just watching this right now, I'll reiterate this in a little bit, but because as people join us, they'll be curious what's going on. Both of our guests are off camera, as we did a couple of weeks ago when we interviewed Diag. We had Diag with us. Both of the guests we had on didn't want to appear on camera, wanted to remain anonymous. So that's the case again today. And for the live stream, it may just appear as though Deborah, Jenny, and myself are listening to disembodied voices because I'm not sure their icons are going to show up. So just if you can just be patient with us, it's more of an audio process than a visual one, I suppose, this time, unless you just like listening or watching us look off into the corner as we listen to voices. But thank you for being here. And Deborah, would you like to start us off with the intro to Solid Ground?
Sure. Although what I do want to do is belatedly wish you a happy birthday. It was Leslie's birthday on the 18th, and 17th. I forgot to say it. Oh, the 17th. Wrong. Yeah. I forgot to say it then. And so anyway, we can send birthday wishes to Leslie through the chat.
Birthday.
Oh, thank you. Thank you very much. That's really sweet.
I have a friend with the 18th. That's what I forgot.
Oh, okay. Really?
Another friend. Yeah.
Yeah. It's the emoji day, 17th. If you have an iPhone, then the emoji for date is July 17th.
Oh.
I don't know why, but that's the case. Anyway.
Pretty interesting.
Yeah.
Okay, so here we go. What I was supposed to do. Solid Ground is a peer support community for anyone concerned about the imposition of critical social justice and/or authoritarian measures such as COVID mandates in their workplace, university, children's school, or community. We offer weekly online peer support groups in which members share ideas, thoughts, and support for how to navigate the impact of these ideologies and answer the question, where do we go from here? You can join one of our groups for only $5 per month. To find out how to join our community, please visit solidgroundsupport.com. And please note, Solid Ground does not provide psychotherapy or legal advice, and nothing we do should be construed as such.
Excellent. Thank you very much. And so welcome, Women Are Real. That's a great name. And I am excited to learn more about your organization and what you do and what was the inspiration for the work that you're doing. We have Bev and Jane with us today. And does one of you want to start with an introduction to your work and yourself?
Sure.
You want to announce who you are because they won't be able to see who's speaking.
Sure. This is Jane Burns, and I helped start Women Are Real back in the summer of 2022. The inspiration for our group really started as a social happy hour, not as a particularly, outward-facing group. We started as a way for women in the Bay Area to join together offline, in person, to have just be able to talk freely. Living in the Bay Area, I'm sure you all who live in blue states understand that there's so many things that women cannot talk about freely. So that's how it started. It turns out in retrospect, if you get a bunch of women together every month and talk, eventually you start doing things. And that's sort of how it happened. And for me personally, the Dana Rivers trial in the fall of 2022, Dana Rivers was a prominent trans activist who went on to brutally murder two lesbians and their son in their house. stabbing one woman 26 times in the face, riddling them with bullets, putting their clothes on, lighting their house on fire. I mean, it just
Oh my God.
terrible. And there was just zero press in Oakland. I live in the
Wow.
Bay Area, zero press in Oakland about it. And we were trying to raise awareness about the trial. So we attended the trial every day. Members of our group took turns attending the trial and trying to tweet out about it. I mean, we all had like 15 followers on Twitter at the time. So that's where it really started, was the Dana Rivers trial. And
Wow.
Bev joined after that in
Yeah. I joined in the fall of 2022. I was aware of the Dana Rivers trial, I think, at the time, but I didn't know that the group was doing that, or else I joined maybe after they were covering it or something. But yeah, I heard about the group because I had made a contribution to WDI, Women's Declaration International, which advocates for the sex-based rights of women and girls. And I got a nice thank you note from the development director, and she said, "Hey, if you ever want to join a group of like-minded women, I'll give you the information." So she gave me Jane's contact number, and we ended up, the group, by necessity, the group vets everybody who wants to join, just to make sure you are a woman, instead of, I mean, there've been so many instances of trans activists infiltrating actions and groups and everything. So it's pretty strict security by necessity. So yeah, I joined then, and I guess one of the first actions that I participated in was Detransitioners Day up at the Capitol in Sacramento. A really moving testimony by people who've been harmed by, well, young people who've been harmed by this. And then Erin Friday, who's actually a member of our group, and she's sort of she's an activist attorney who leads our duty. She spoke about it as well. So that's one of my early memories of being in the group.
So it must be really, really wonderful, a great feeling to not have to censor yourself around other people. It sounds like that's something you were both talking about, is this. And Jane, you mentioned that women feel like there's, in this area, there are a lot of things that they can't say. So this started as just a social group where you could really speak your mind freely, and grew into more of an active organization working on challenging problems actively. So how many women are in the group now about?
So we've expanded. We have satellite groups in Sacramento and LA. I'm not sure of the total number in all of the satellite groups, but there's about 130-ish women, most of them based in the Bay Area, that are on our newsletter. And I would say 40 or 50 women are active in terms of coming to happy hours and active behind the scenes. And then we have a handful of women that are active with their full names and faces. So there's a large army of women behind every woman that comes out with her full name and face. There's a large number of women behind them, helping however we can.
And something I've been struck by is, and just recently I've had this experience of meeting women from, say, Santa Cruz and Mendocino County. And these are places that are, maybe 2 hours from San Francisco proper. And, they're very interested in joining. And we, of course, we've got people from Sacramento as well. So it's expanded. Our particular group has expanded beyond the Bay Area, because I'm always meeting people who say, yeah, there's just nothing in my area. I don't feel like I can speak freely to anybody.
Oh, yeah. In terms of our longest distance, we had some woman drive from Reno for one of our happy hours. This is a
Oh,
2 hour
wow.
happy hour in San
Wow.
Francisco. She's like, I just wanted to be in person with women that I can talk about these issues with. So
Mhm.
I do think that's a central, even though we were not intending to be an activist group, I, we started with the idea of no agenda, in person, speaking. And the idea behind that this is a big tent. We are nonpartisan. We aren't, we have a lot of other issues that divide the women that, we disagree with, abortion, Israel, Palestine, COVID, all of those issues, we have people on both sides. So the only thing you need to do to be able to join our group is be a woman and basically think, men cannot be women. Women deserve their own female-only
Mhm.
spaces.
Mhm.
And if you're good with that, then all the other issues aside, we're going to try to be a big tent and welcome you here. Although I would say the vast majority of us are lefties or former lefties, but I want to respect our Republican members, the few, the proud that are in the Bay Area. They're here. They're in our group.
And then it's such a fluid identification. I mean, a lot of us describe ourselves as politically homeless, and we've all got big decisions to make, needless to say, in the upcoming elections.
So for those who are just joining us now in the chat, hello, Jennifer Atkins, Mega Dirk, Ray, Ninja Kitty, Student of Rhythm. It's nice to see you guys here today. Hope you're having a good day. And if you are just if you're seeing Deborah, Jenny, and myself on the screen and then voices off screen, we have two guests here with us, Jane and Bev from Women Are Real, and they are off camera, but here with us to have this conversation.
Go ahead, Jenny.
Oh, I was just going to ask, when you mentioned the Bay Area and people sort of living undercover in terms of their beliefs, is it really as bad as it seems? I mean, that's the impression I get, but everything I'm looking at is through social media in particular, and also a couple of people that I know. One actually, a friend of mine who lives in the Bay Area as well, who's confirmed it to be that bad. But is it really that bad where you feel like you can't? Is there fear in terms of you guys voicing your opinions, or is it more just, oh, I can't be bothered getting into another argument? How bad is it?
Well, I'll start. I'm Jane, and I'll start, and then Bev can join. She has a different perspective. So I have children. I have a young child, and I have an older child. So I have a child in high school and a child in preschool. Plus, I have a background as an educator. I've been an educator for over 20 years. And also I have my partner runs a small business. So I have some it really depends on the location and the group that you're talking with. I think there's a lot of fear, and some of that fear is well reasoned and based in reality, and some of that fear is projected. Like, it's hard to know how safe you are until you say something. I think
Yeah.
the effectiveness of the cancellations of few prominent women has been enough to convince women, oh, look what happened to this woman. I don't want that to happen to me. The question is, would it happen to them if they spoke out? It's hard to know. At the high school level, my son goes to a very ideologically captured high school, both the faculty, parents, and students. It is, I wrote a letter to the head of school, a very moderate, well-reasoned letter with many sources in mainstream media talking about this issue. He has never responded to me, and when I attend parent meetings, he does not look me in the eye. He does not address me. So I know that if I spoke publicly in the parent community there, that I would be completely ostracized. My son also experiences it at the high school level. He cannot express any dissent. And interestingly, though, at the preschool level, I have been able to talk to parents about this.
Really?
Yes, it took me 2 years, but there are about we only have a preschool of, like 20 or so families, and I have now identified 5 families that are concerned about this.
Mm.
They know something's going on and something's wrong. They hear things from the older elementary school students. So I have been able to actually talk about this with the preschool parents, but not the high school parents.
Okay.
From my perspective, I don't have kids, and I'm not, I'm more or less retired, so I'm not in fear of losing a job. But the way it hits me, or I guess that I've seen it happen personally, is I've lost friends over this.
Yeah.
I live in San Francisco itself, and the trans activists have done a great job of, it's like been this total reversal where if you just say, I'm standing up for women's rights and I don't want men in women's spaces, et cetera, the stuff that we say, you're automatically branded a bigot and transphobic. And it's on a par with being called homophobic or racist. I mean, I think homophobic is maybe closer because, unfortunately, trans has mutated from gay activism and stuff. But just for example, I was very active in the Protect Kids California initiative. We tried to get this measure on the ballot that would ban, I don't know how much, I'm sure your listeners know about this, or a lot of them do, but it would have banned cross-sex hormones, puberty blockers, and surgeries for minors in California. It would have banned males and female spaces in schools, and it would have required parental notification if a child starts socially transitioning. Anyway, I did this carefully crafted, very, I thought, moderate email to a whole bunch of my friends and contacts. And most of it was dead silence, like no response at all. Some people wrote back and said, I would sign this. I would, be interested in downloading and signing this, except for I'm afraid that I'll be exposed as transphobic, even though I explained to them that your signature doesn't become public. I mean, maybe it could with a lawsuit, but that's highly unlikely. And then one friend wrote back, I mean, I guess we're no longer friends. I don't know. Like, she wrote back and said, I couldn't disagree more. Please take me off your email list. And then there's the problem with, I have other friends who either have kids who identify as non-binary. That's mainly what it is. And they just bristle whenever I bring this up. And one of them, when I started talking about males and female spaces or locker rooms or sports, I mean, one of them just rolled her eyes and just said, oh, come on, as if I were just some right-wing out to lunch jerk, So it's just, you face a lot of social ostracism. Although I have to say that my really dearest friends are simpatico. They're not in the movement per se, but they, I can talk freely as long as I don't. Some of us just go down the rabbit hole. Sometimes we have to be careful to remember that there are other subjects to talk about over dinner.
What is it about this topic? What's so important about this to the two of you?
Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, that's fine. I would say, and I think about this all the time. I talk about this with my friends all the time. Why is this so such a lightning rod for me? Part of it is it comes from this inability to look away. I Once you see the harms, it's for me very difficult. So I have a background working with incarcerated folks, and once you really see the harm to incarcerated women, I could not stop thinking about it. I couldn't just put it down. The other issue it is for me, I mean, the terror of being locked in a cell with a sex offender, a male sex offender at night with nobody to call for help, it just sounds horrific. And I just cannot stop thinking about these women. And this is happening in the state of California. I live in California. My entire life, I've been sort of an activist in different realms. Most of that activism has been around other places besides California. And so then this is here in my own state. Women are being locked in cells with men, fully intact men who have a history of violence against women. And that for me is something I cannot stop thinking about. And I also think I have a hard time with the hypocrisy in since I come from the left, that hypocrisy of I always thought, oh, we were the party of science, we're the party of women's rights. And now I realize, no, there's no such thing as a political party that follows science. Science is its own thing. It's nonpartisan. There's no political party that will ever just listen to the science. They are going to see it through a lens of their own ideology. And same with women's rights. Women's rights always crosses boundaries and ideological, different lenses. So that's why it's so important to me.
That is such a great summary of how bad it is and why it's so important not to look away. I am just horrified by the long march through the institutions of this ideology. I mean, which is more horrifying, is the medicine, journalism, business, all of it. There's the church even. I mean, I'm from a mainline Protestant faith. I'm Episcopalian. I mean, actually, I'm pretty much of an atheist, but I'm just horrified by how the mainline Protestant faiths have. I mean, there are churches in San Francisco that I just refer to as the trans church because, they've got the progress flag out there and they're just all in. And how can these churches be for the defilement of the human body? I know that sounds dramatic, but it's just, that's what's happening. And I'm just, I also want to, Jane covered so much that I agree with it. I'm just going to also put in a word on the fact that this crisis that we're seeing goes larger than gender per se. It's a First Amendment free expression issue. When people are just roundly being censored, their views, articles are being rejected. People are losing their jobs. There's so much, I see so much self-censorship. And I don't know, it's pretty frightening. I come from a sports background. I played tennis for my schools, and I had a state ranking and all that. And I've known for a very long time. And well, we all know it's so obvious the differences between men and women in terms of strength and everything. I'm just appalled at what's happening in girls and women's sports. I think back to when I was in high school. And I mean, I started playing tennis from a very young age. It would have just been horribly discouraging if you're competing for a place on a team and you get shut out by a boy, or that is really, people aren't thinking about the devastating emotional harms that this is doing to girls. We've always, for a long time now, we've looked at sports as a great way for women to build self-confidence and get the leadership skills and the teamwork skills that we all need later in life. And this is being really corrupted by this problem. So,
Jenny, did you have something you wanted to ask?
Well, I was just thinking, when Jane mentioned the prison issue, I actually corresponded with a woman serving a life sentence in, is it CIW, the women's prison in California?
There's two. CIW is one of them. That's
Yeah.
the smaller one. Yes.
Yeah, and we corresponded a bit, and I wrote a piece about the situation in general in for Feminist Current, and this is in 2022. And I it's really hard to process the full horror of that being a reality. And there was a lawsuit being filed against the state of California. Maybe you know what the status is on that, against the bill, and I forget the number of the bill that allowed men to be transferred into women's prisons.
SB 132. Yeah.
Yes. So
Yeah.
the lawsuit was dismissed, but they are filing. In fact, Wolf just announced this morning that they filed. Wolf is Women's Liberation Front, who started the initial lawsuit, and they just filed again an amended complaint this morning. They announced it.
Do you know why it was dismissed?
There was no, I'm not a lawyer. So, but it's so infuriating because they said there was no harm, I believe. And ironically, the ACLU had, and I don't know the legal term, but they had, joined the lawsuit on the opposite side. And one of the male inmates that they had used to join the lawsuit is the exact male inmate that is now currently going to have a trial about raping two of the female inmates. So just to say that just the irony of saying that there is no harm, and then they used the male inmate that is in fact like being held accountable for 2 alleged rapes in the space of less than 24 hours.
Wow.
These 2 alleged rapes happen, and there's quite a bit of evidence that this happened. This isn't a he said, she said phenomenon. There's hard evidence. So I think the amended complaint has real legs. I am very hopeful that the amended complaint will go forward. Bev, you can add something to that if you'd like.
The guy's name is Tremaine Carroll. I don't know what his girl name is. But he was what's called an intervener in the original lawsuit, which was Chandler versus California. I understood it was dismissed on quote unquote procedural grounds, kind of a technicality. These horrible rapes, and also there's a count of witness intimidation, will definitely give legs to this lawsuit. A bunch of us there was a preliminary hearing in Madeira, which is where Chowchilla women's prison is, Madeira County. And that's where this happened. We went there to sort of witness the hearing and to hold up signs, and we spoke on camera after. And it was one thing that I found heartening is that, with the exception of the defendant's own defense attorney, everybody, the witnesses and the DA and et cetera, referred to him as him. This may not sound like a big deal, but it is a big deal.
It is a big deal.
So, because there are courtrooms where we talk about, her penis, literally.
Mhm.
Um, so that was good. And if you look at this guy, there's not that it matters that much, but there's not even an attempt to appear like a female.
Mhm.
That's
Oh,
what this
really?
woman, that's what this woman had said to me. That, they're fully intact. She called it gender fraud,
Yeah,
which it
very
is
intact.
in more ways than one. And her opinion was that because life is so much more pleasant in a female prison, who wouldn't want to do that? Never mind the added incentive if you're a sexual predator, of being given this gift of being able to dominate women all the time, 24/7. It's literally a rapist's dream come true. um but that there was no attempt being made to even find effeminate men who were trans, who, because they wanted to just simply mimic female beauty. No, this is not Orange is the New Black with the big chick
Right.
dude, that plot line. That is not that. This is not that.
Mhm.
Well,
Yeah.
oh, I'm sorry. Well, interestingly enough, just if you're curious, Tremaine Carell is featured on many websites. He has published articles about himself, and he just says in the article that he published, I mean, I'll read you a quote. As far as outwardly identifying as anything, I never felt the need. My gender identity is mine. I'm a natural born athlete. I play sports. I'm 6 feet, 220 pounds. I am who I am. I have never felt the need to wear lipstick or wear tight clothing or change my voice or any of these things. He's just
So
Yeah.
saying,
brazen. It's so brazen.
But you know what? That reminds me, this guy who, as Jane said, is 6 feet, 200, whatever, showed up in court in a wheelchair. And he is not the only one trans identified person to have done this. Dana Rivers, for his trial, wasn't he in a wheelchair?
yes, he was also
Yeah,
in a wheelchair. This is a man who,
yeah,
brutally raped these women, and
yeah,
it's just an incredibly brutal crime, and then wheeled in every day in the wheelchair.
I just pulled
yeah,
up this guy, Tremaine.
yeah.
So there's an
Is he
article
pretty?
with him. There he is. He's not trying to be a woman. Yeah, it's wild to me that there would be a policy that allows for self-identification on the honor system for people who have already broken their social contract. They have already proven that they don't have honor. That's why they're in jail. They're not trustworthy human beings. And yet we're going to let them opt for something that, Jenny, I think you said it's like a rapist's dream, but it's even an imprisoned man's dream. I get to go be in a even if he's not a rapist per se, he just is a heterosexual man or just a man, period. I don't want to be in with these brutal people who are scary and beating me up. I'd rather go somewhere where I'm not endangered all the time and I can be around softer, gentler human beings, the women, and I have access to women because I like women and I get to talk to them and maybe hook up with them. I mean, even if you're not a predator per se, it's still, there's such a massive incentive to
Yeah,
say that
Yeah.
to do whatever it is that would get you over there. So why wouldn't you be committing gender
Yeah.
fraud? It's just it's so simple, so obvious.
I know and I think, there's the CDCR staff that deal with this. No, this is
yeah,
happening.
Mm-hmm.
And just this is a limited perspective, but from my, the males that I have met that are incarcerated that identify as women have no desire to transfer to a women's prison. So they, we like to think incarcerated people live maybe in the 1970s or the 1980s, but culture in prison has also shifted over the
Yeah.
years. And I'm not saying that there isn't homophobia or there isn't rapes, but at least the handful of males that I have talked to that are, incarcerated but identifying as women, they have boyfriends and they have a culture at the male prison. So
Mhm.
they are not the ones.
That's interesting.
The Laverne Cox of Orange is the New Black would not be in a women's prison. That person is in a man's prison and is enjoying himself quite well in the man's prison, has no desire to transfer. When you
Mm.
look at the number of trans-identified prisoners in California, less than
Wow.
half of them have applied for transfer. So the ones that are
Wow, that's so
transferring,
interesting.
yes, the ones that are transferring are the boundary pushers, the
Mhm.
heterosexual men. The gay men are not transferring.
Yeah,
Mhm.
and these guys, in almost every case, they certainly weren't trans identifying when they came into prison. I'm
Right.
talking about the ones that are straight males, not the effeminate ones. They just, after 20 years, decided, oh, hey, I'm a woman. I'm a woman.
It seems to me that we have a bit of a schema mismatch problem. I mean, I think that when people who are supporting these trans identified men in doing what they're doing, I wonder what they imagine. What is the
Yeah.
picture that they have in their mind of the person that they need to be sympathetic to? And it seems like it's probably a boy, a young man who's just really confused and soft and has this need and has this earnestness about him. I'm just trying to picture what it is versus when we see this picture of Tremaine. I think he represents the sort of schema that a lot of women have in their minds when they're objecting to men going into women's prisons, regardless, self ID and then going in. So we picture Tremaine, this guy who's not even attempting to be feminine in any way, shape, or form, but is like, yeah, I'm a woman. And then he goes in and he rapes two people. But the other side must be picturing something different, something very sympathetic. And the honest truth is that the picture of what a trans identified person is spans that whole gamut. It's not one thing, So go ahead, Jenny.
It's one thing though to say that what they're picturing, and I think if you're talking about um, people who've never seen this issue up close and don't really deal with it and prefer to pretend like do they la 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 this isn't really happening, that might be a sort of excuse for them. But when Jane, I think it was you, said the ACLU has filed against Wolf in this particular case involving this particular man who is clearly a dangerous apex predator and is clearly a man. So what I'm really, and I can't believe I'm still shockable at this point, because obviously this is happening in the UK. This is happening in Ireland where I live. I mean, it's just this is the same sickness everywhere. But I still am just shook to my boots when I think of someone from the ACLU who, up until recently, I would have thought, wow, what a crowning achievement in one's life to work for the ACLU. What a brave and um, kind of prestigious and justice prone job, that you would go and you would defend I mean, I personally think you should defend a rapist in a court of law, just like due process. Due process applies to everyone, but you would work against women who are trying to protect themselves from being trapped with this man. So he's had his due process, he's been convicted, and then all of a sudden you are going to put all of your intelligence, all of your sophistication, all of your legal learning, all of your confidence and your social status behind this person getting to twist the rules around and play the game that will specifically enable him to commit more crime against actual vulnerable people. And I cannot, still to this day, I cannot wrap my head around how we have a cadre of professionals who are not just going along with it. They're actively agitating, and they're actively doing harm. Like, I still find that to be, and because Jane, you're absolutely right. Of all of the horrors, and there are many, I feel that the young boys who are mutilating their bodies and the young girls who are mutilating their bodies, these young kids in high school and whatnot, horrifying. But on all of the scale of the horrors, the women in the prisons are the most horrifying to me. And the fact that people who are crusaders for justice, who perceive themselves to be crusaders for justice, are going to be actively advocating against the safety and dignity of these women. Please, someone tell me how the United States, or maybe just California, maybe just a couple the other crazy blue states that are doing this. Please tell me how they're better than Iran. Please, somebody explain to me how anyone in liberal America can pretend that they and their precious liberal morality is better than anything that's happening in Iran right now.
Yeah, just to jump in a little bit on this ACLU, I don't know what extent it is that Chase Strangio is in charge and is a trans person. Like somehow that ideology has just become this trump card, like over every single thing. So like, and I don't know how much it's personality guided or, still people are buying it. I don't know if people just get this ultimate victim and deciding who's on the bottom of or the top of the pyramid of intersectionality, and they just lose all of their reasoning ability after that.
Yeah, and Chase Strangio, who, as most of us know, is a female who identifies as male, and she is very prominent with the ACLU. And what kills me also about the ACLU is they stand for free speech, or they supposedly do. And they in another women's prison case up in Washington, they tried to suppress discovery. They tried to suppress documents coming out of women's accounts of being violated by men in prisons up in Washington. They've actively tried to suppress information.
Wow. They actually, the ACLU tried to block information.
Yeah.
Yes.
I don't know the details, but I can get that for you. But
Oh my gosh.
another thing I wanted to say about Chase Strangio, you might recall when Abigail Schreier's book, Irreversible Damage, came out a few years ago, there was a tweet that she had, which was deleted, but people recovered it. She said, "Stopping circulation of this book is 100% the hill I will die on." This is an attorney for the ACLU. And it is just unbelievable.
Bev, wasn't that one of the reasons you peaked?
Yes. I mean, that along with Grace Lavery, a trans-identified male who's a professor at UC Berkeley. This is around the same time. It's when Abigail Schreier's book, Irreversible Damage, came out, and Target banned it for a while, and you couldn't find it anywhere except on Amazon. But anyway, Grace Lavery, in a tweet, who's an English professor at UC Berkeley, encouraged people to either steal or buy the book and burn it.
Oh my gosh.
Actively encouraged book burning.
So, okay, the Clue channel just asked in the chat, I'm confused who is speaking. And that I should reiterate for anybody who's joined us since the last time we made the announcement about what we're doing here. I said we wouldn't do this again. I just said it like last week, that we would try not to have disembodied voices because it weirded some people out but I don't know how to change the setting on the Zoom so that you guys will see their icons up when they're speaking. We have two guests with us today from a San Francisco Bay Area group, Women Are Real. They are Jane Burns and Bev, and they are choosing to remain off camera for safety reasons. So we have just in the recording of this, you'll end up seeing their icons talking, but for some reason when it's on live, you can only hear their voices, and it looks like Deborah and Jenny and I are just looking at each other with voices coming in. So no, it's not a seance, as somebody asked earlier. But we are talking about issues relating to gender ideology and the impacts of gender ideology in a very real and legal sense. So, Bev, you just said, or Jane, maybe, I think you said, Bev, wasn't that when you peaked? Was somebody say what that is? Because I'm not sure everybody knows what that is.
Sure. We use this slang peaked to mean when you realize there was a problem with the gender framework. Either you realize there's a problem with men invading women's spaces in sports, or there's a problem with the medical industry, medicalizing children around issues, thinking that their bodies are, wrong. And the word peaked, and I think it's a process, really. It's not just one time. I have a friend who uses the word perk. So when you first perked is when you first are like, that doesn't seem right. And then peaking is when you're like, oh, I'm out on the street holding a sign.
Okay.
I'm burning down my friendships, and we've all lost friends in this, but I think we've been very serious, but I want to say that the center of our group is we have a lot of fun. I mean, that was how we started. I mean, we were talking about a very serious issue, but we get together every month for our happy hours and have a lot of fun. And a lot of our actions, because we live in the Bay Area, San Francisco has a history of street theater, that a lot of our actions are sort of playful and fun. So I just want to say, I know it's been very heavy, but I think fun is part of our group.
Yeah, I wanted to shine a light on that because I do think you've been creative. I was looking at the list of some of the things that you've done, some of the protest things you did, the art, a nasty piece of work, art exhibit. You guys dressed up as Kelly J. Keane.
Yes.
For a Halloween action, right? So there are these inventive things you're doing even as you're doing serious, advocacy work. I like the creativity involved.
Yeah, the dressing up as Kelly J. Keane was a lot of fun. So just going back for 1 second to SB 132, the men and women's prisons. In California, we have Scott Wiener to thank for that. He's a state senator from my district in San Francisco. And so every year he has a pumpkin carving contest and just Halloween stuff in a local park. And he invites drag queens, and it's for kids. And so a whole bunch of us dressed up like Posey Park or Kelly J. Keane.
Can I share that? I want to share that.
Sure.
Do you mind if I play it?
Oh, please.
It's so cute. So here, I'm going to share this. Can you guys see this right now?
Oh my God.
This is a video, and I'm going to start it from the beginning.
Yeah.
So here we go.
Oh, that's hilarious.
Oh, what a day this has been. What a rare mood I'm in. Why, it's almost like being a... If you can speak the truth, even when you know all around you are fucking mental, then I promise we will win.
Scott, come on, be the sport. Come on, Scott. Be the sport, Scott.
Sorry.
He's tall.
He's taller than I thought. Yeah.
The event at the park. If you guys want to do your own event, you're more than happy to take it to the sidewalk.
Wow, that's very confrontational.
It is a little confrontational. You don't think like coming around and like crowding around an elected official is confrontational? You don't think like this is a little weird to come to a kids event and like try and get up in someone's face? You don't think that's confrontational?
I'm actually not getting in people's
Okay,
faces.
you could understand like the frustration then of like coming to a kids event and like doing something like this. Yeah, it's a little improper and a little rude, right? So we're trying to do something nice for the community, and like and they're trying to disrupt it.
They are?
Yes.
Well, what is that group?
The people who come up and try and like jump around him and like get in his face, you don't think that they're trying to disrupt it? Honestly, you don't think that they're trying to disrupt it? You don't think that they're coming here and like...
It didn't cross my mind.
Oh yeah, all right. That's why you're here, right? Because they're not going to come and disrupt anything and like try and get in his face.
I don't know who this group is. an online photojournalist. I covered this event last year too. So, and there were
All right. Let's see. So that's super
That's
cute.
amazing.
And that's you guys.
Yeah,
That's fun.
just to say what's hilarious is that staffer assumed because that woman was a photojournalist and maybe middle-aged that she was
Mhm.
part of our group.
That's what's
Yeah.
going on there.
That
She didn't know
journalist
who
had
we were.
Yeah, she's like, why are they being what? She didn't see any problem with us. She wanted to take a picture of us.
Mhm.
And he was being so aggressive to her. And
Yeah,
that
he
other
was.
Yeah.
that other older woman was not part of our group either. So the two of them are
Mhm.
like, what's going on? Why are you mad at us? We're just here doing our job. And it's interesting that he assumed, of course, they must be part of the group because they're women.
Yeah, he was very hostile. He was
Yeah.
upset. And it was interesting. This Scott Wiener, I don't know what business he ever has doing any kind of kids events. The guy seems just X-rated up the wazoo.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Excuse me, there's this Yvette person running against him. Does she have any chance of winning?
I'm working on that. Yeah, her name is Yvette Corcoran, and she is a long shot. And part of that is she's running as a Republican, which is a very endangered, if not extinct, species in San Francisco. Although I don't know, she's getting some traction. It's just there's just a whole raft of bills that Wiener has authored or co-authored or at least strongly sponsored behind the scenes that have to do with hiding a child's transition from parents,
Yeah.
helping to make this a sanctuary state for minors who want to run away and
Mhm.
all this. So anyway, I just I don't want to interrupt this with a political announcement too much, but I hope that people who are in this district in San Francisco will consider voting for Yvette against Scott Wiener.
Our
Yeah.
group is definitely Yvette's actually part of our group, and
Yeah.
she's one of our rare Republican members, but we definitely support her, and many of our members are volunteering for her campaign. I think anything is possible. It may
Yeah.
be a long shot, but this is a strange year. So we had a Democrat in the primary against Scott Wiener, and she had no support, no money, and still managed to get 17,000 votes. So, I think
Is Scott Wiener
Somewhat.
actually popular, or do people actually like the guy? He just seems so creepy.
yes,
Deb,
people like him.
didn't Bev you tell me he was strong on housing, or somebody told me that he
He's so Wiener's a complicated case. I'll just have to say that I'll fess up and say that back in 2010, when he first ran for Board of Supervisors, which is like our city council, that's the equivalent in San Francisco, I gave him a house party and I campaigned for him.
Mhm.
And back then in 2010, it's just this really young, smart guy who by San Francisco standards is moderate, because he was and still is, except for on this horrible issue that we're talking about. Yeah, he's been more pro-housing. He's just seemed to be more moderate than the average San Francisco lefty. And that's why it's a complicated case. I happen to belong to two Democratic clubs that support him, and I've also had to part company more or less with them. I've just kind of stepped back, and so yeah, I gave him a house party and everything, and I supported him over the years. But he's just, I don't know what his obsession is with the trans thing. I guess he gets I should do this. I haven't looked to see where all of his money comes from. But I know
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of it comes from real estate developers and other people who are interested in housing of one sort or another.
Mm.
But you know, he's backed, of course, by HRC and the legacy LGBT organizations that are now seem to be captured by trans.
Yeah. I mean, almost everything is. There's been a little bit of progress here in the UK where the NHS will stop prescribing puberty blockers to minors. That's really astounding because it was sort of like a one glimmer of hope in an otherwise what seemed utterly captured space. But yeah, the American institutions really do seem like they're completely fallen. And I guess I mean, I suppose to me, there's always part of the trans thing that I think it's obviously the sinister machinations of big money interests. That's real. And I know that I know some people have done a lot of work on that. But I think it like in how it's presented to sort of normies and how it converts people and the formerly unaffiliated. I think it does in two ways. One, it kind of hijacks empathy and it twists women's natural empathy of protecting like the soft sweet boy who they don't want to get beaten up by the mean boys. But also then I think there's another subset of people, and I think this is particularly with the Protestant churches, because here in the UK the Church of England is wild, like it's wildly trans. And I think and the police as well, the Metropolitan Police in the UK, hugely trans, very creepy. It's very creepy. I think this ideology came along and said to people, oh, you know, your kink isn't shameful and gross and needs to be kept private. Your kink is actually, we're going to elevate it to a quasi-religious status. And that has provoked this huge loyalty amongst people who are living with the secret shame of being perverts, essentially. Like the perverts used to be in the closet, remember? So I'm talking about the AGPs now, the grown men, the straight men who transition in middle age and who hijack these levers of power to satisfy their sexual urges. But I think like there's so many different ways in which the trans ideology has provided some sort of like solve to people's messed up psyches, whether it's the toxic empathy or, oh, whoops, I was actually secretly a perv all along, you know, and now I don't have to be ashamed of it anymore.
Yeah, it's a good point. I mean, it creates a path of least resistance so people don't have to feel bad about themselves.
Yes. And I think the reason that people's reaction is so vicious is that everyone who is living a lie absolutely on some level knows it. And when someone who is living in truth confronts them with that lie, the only possible reaction is aggression and destruction. You have to be destroyed. Because if you're allowed to go around with your damn truth, you're going to destroy my lie.
That's so. Oh, sorry, I didn't mean to
Sorry,
interrupt.
no, go on.
I just love. I love what you've been saying there. It's so true because I mean, Senator Scott Wiener, he has multiple pictures of himself at the Folsom Street Fair, which is a very adult kink-based fair, which has been going on in San Francisco forever. But it's such a strange thing to be a politician and then post pictures.
It's insane.
What's this whole queering thing? I'm just realizing it, even just the political queering. In some ways, it is absolution for everybody who thinks if you have something you do, it doesn't even have to be way out there abnormal. Just anything that you feel might be wrong or not normal. It's suddenly giving everybody like a pass. Like it says, oh, I'm going to take your karma and clean your whatever, right? Like I'm just going to like clean it out and it's all good. And so it's like kind of the ultimate absolution or something.
Yeah.
And it's so I love what you've been saying, Jenny. It's just spot on. And then also along the lines of when someone is speaking their truth, you know, the visceral reaction is, you know, you can't be allowed to do that. You must be destroyed. Is there's so many people now who have a child who is in this madness, or they have a good friend or someone in their close connection group where it is just unthinkable, especially parents of who have allowed this to happen to their children or their young adult children. It's unthinkable to think, hey, I made a horrible mistake. They're going to be, I think Helen Joyce has made this point. The parents are going to, and the grandparents and the siblings they're going to be the last ones to ever recant. I mean, they can't.
I would like to add something to that, just a different perspective, because I have been, unfortunately, a friend to several parents, not close friend, but, you know, friend / acquaintance to several parents who were confronted with their child having a trans identity. And I was talking to them before they decided what to do with their kid. And they're in this incredibly vulnerable place. And to my shame, I have never been able to convince any of them not to take their kid to the gender clinic. So I have failed 3 times. I have failed. And the parents are just in this impossible position. They know at the beginning, all 3 of them knew it was wrong. They knew their boy wasn't really a girl, or their girl wasn't really a boy. They knew that. And they were incredibly upset. The doctors were telling them one thing, the school counselors were telling them a thing. And then I was this lone voice telling them to trust their, I always started with trust your maternal instinct. You love your child more than anyone else. You know this is wrong. And trying to build up that was like my goal, to sort of build that up. And I tried to provide, you know, evidence. This was before the Cass report. So there was still a lot of evidence and any mainstream articles, because they won't read Substacks. Liberal parents will not read these great Substacks we have. So we have to use the New York Times, the Economist, those articles. But none of them, all 3 of them did not believe it at the beginning.
Well, it just goes to show that there's such a range of experiences among families as well, because we see all the way from the families that declare their child to be gender fluid when they're just a little 3-year-old or whatever, to claim that their son is really a girl because he told them so when he was 4.
Right.
And then we see these families that just don't know what to do. They're sort of caught in the middle, and they're just being kind of swept along with the majority opinion in their area, or the expert opinion when they speak to the so-called experts. And then you have the parents who resist this really hard, that say, no, I'm not going to affirm you. I think that you've caught a social contagion. I don't believe that you really, I think you'll regret this if you make these kind of changes in your life. So it's just goes to show that there's so many different experiences.
Yes, and the thing is, though, these parents now have turned into the parents Bev was talking about. So I saw them before they were those parents that were, now they're going to go down with the ship.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. To the degree that they've invested in it, they're invested.
Cost.
Oh.
Yeah, it's the sunk cost fallacy.
Yeah.
But it is truly tragic. I just feel sad for anyone who's going through this, whether it's the kid or the parents. It's going to reverberate for generations.
I do have one acquaintance who has decided now their kid is 5, I think, but at 3 decided their kid was opposite sex identified. And I don't have any sadness there. I have a lot of judgment and anger, actually.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah,
that's so sick.
We haven't really talked about that before on this program. We haven't really gone into like the so-called trans kid, idea, but maybe that'd be something to explore in the future. It is really pretty shocking that parents would opt their kid into that, because it's a medical pathway. That why would you want to choose that for yourself? Why would you want to choose that for yourself? Why would you choose that for your child?
Yeah, and Leslie, I hope you do cover this in another episode because it would. And I'm glad Jane brought up the sadness, but yeah, I feel very angry at a couple of friends. I know one woman who both of her kids identify as non-binary, even though one of them is married and has a child, and that kid of hers and spouse are now referring to their baby as a they.
Okay, gosh.
And
Oh, wow.
I
a baby.
mean, and they will not tell anybody. I happen to know the sex of the kid, but they keep referring to the child, the baby, as they, and insist that everyone else do the same. And I mean, what is this going to do to the kid?
I think we should have
Terrible.
a conversation about gender creative parenting next,
Yeah.
maybe
Yeah.
next week.
I don't know if I could do that.
Well, what's that, Deborah?
No, you think of all what would be the positive identity formation that's getting warped in that, right? Yeah.
And
Well, go ahead.
You
Go ahead,
guys,
Jenny.
who have counseling experience and who've studied these things, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but certainly from my life experience, I have come to the conclusion that children's categorization of sex identity is really hardwired, and they like things to be very clear cut, and they like to really reinforce the gender binary, and it's very important to them psychically from a very young age, because just understand that this is not that, and that this is this me, I am me, you are you, mommy is mommy, daddy is daddy. And I think it's actually it's quite a charming phase that kids go through when they're starting to point and name things and see the difference and process things. And if for anyone to willfully and gleefully and with a smug joy come along and try and fuck with that, yeah, there's a lot of judgment is the word, Jane. I think it's a very kind word, actually. There's no there's no depth to my horror at that an adult could do that to a little tiny child's mind.
Well put.
I love listening to all of you because I'm a science math person, so I'm very literal, I'm very logical, and very linear, but listening to your description, because I just go around just so like, why is this happening? And what you just said, Jenny, really resonated with me, because I think that the one person I know that's doing this is that they are very damaged themselves, and they are living in the poly lifestyle, queering the boundaries, and that is important for them to take that project and then implant it on their child.
Yeah.
And the people I know who are doing this are professionals, and they themselves have a conventional lifestyle, and they're very well educated, and there's just no excuse.
Yeah.
Thank you all for this conversation today. We'll go ahead and wrap it up. We went a little long because it's just so much to talk about. I feel like we could do this for another hour easily and just continue to explore this and talk about the issues. Women Are Real, Jane and Bev, thank you so much for being a place for people to connect and talk openly. And thank you for sharing with us. And would you like to tell people where they can find you if they're interested in contacting your group?
Sure. We have a website, WomenAreReal.org, and if you scroll to the bottom and click on contact, and you are a adult human female, specifically we focus on California. You can contact us out of state, but our main focus is California. You can also find us on Twitter at WomenAreReals, Women Are Real with an S. Twitter's our main contact. We also have an Instagram, Women Are Reals, as well.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much. Thank you to everybody who joined us in the chat. Thank you, Ninja Kitty, for putting up links and hanging out. And Deborah and Jenny, as always, thank you so much. We'll see you guys